Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Legacies, a great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we have, Hope and Malivor's conversation. Obviously, Hope threatening to cut up Malivore. It's like, well, I can always apologize to Landon later because it's like, oh, it's like, wait, we both want to kill each other, but we can't. I can't kill you without making you the tri-bred, and that won't work for me. And you can't kill me without killing Landon, so we're kind of at an impasse. I even love he did make a Silence of the Lambs, hello, Clarice, and it's like, ugh. God, like, this kid, realize how many movies he's watched? It's like, ugh. And he's constantly throughout the episode, he shares a lot of, like, Landon's memories. I wonder, like, how much of that is, like, subconsciously, like, coming to the surface because they share a mind, or is it simply because that's him doing that because he knows it will resonate with Hope and just other people, like, yeah, let me make these movie references so that it sticks in even more that Landon's in here somewhere, you just can't get to him. But Hope literally can't even get to Malivore because the team has blocked her from going in, and she's like, right, there's a super squad team meeting and I didn't know anything about it. It's like, well, yeah, we kind of didn't tell you. So MG's the one that comes up with the plan, but they're keeping Hope a little bit in the dark. They actually want her to sit out of this because it's like, yeah, you've kind of shown time and time and time and time again that you will prioritize Landon's protection and going after him and trying to save him above all else. So understandably, they want to sideline her, which makes perfect sense. I know that might have been an issue for a lot of people, just like her saving Landon. I like it because it brings up this fatal flaw that's in Hope's character. That is like, it's like that she's so like trying to feel like that void inside of her, where it's like she's lost everyone she's ever loved, and so like she's trying so desperately to make sure the one person she still has left, Landon, doesn't end up like her mom and dad and ends up losing them forever. Like, so it's like that trauma, of course, is going to like, because I've talked about it recently, like, time and time again, like there's a video game character I like because he has a lot of issues that don't even technically get fully resolved until like over the course of a 4-game arc, because it's just a continuous thing of what he's been through, and it makes him double down on a lot of, like, he's hard on himself and he doesn't care about himself. He's willing to put other people's lives above others. It's like, well, in this case, it's like Hope kind of wants to have her cake and eat it too in the situation. She wants to like save Landon, but she also wants to protect the rest of her family too, her friends, the people that matter to her. But it's just Landon always takes that extra spot because it's like, right, I love him. Like, there's always been a connection since the very beginning, and there's just always been destiny pulling them apart. Like, very Romeo and Juliet-esque of almost like, is this even meant to be? Because every time we turn around, like, something's pulling us away from each other. But Hope is like, no, trust me, I realize I said I'm sorry. It's like, I find that funny, just like, I said I'm sorry, alright? Like, I'm sorry I keep choosing Landon over and over again. It just seems like sorry's not good enough. But it ultimately comes down to a vote. And I figured as much with, like, the whole dramatization of just, like, her, like, forcing Lizzie to the occasion. I was like, this is all part of the plan. So, make it seem like Hope went rogue, but Caleb is going to take Alaric in there to deep dive to try and find Cleo. But they accounted for this. So, MG and Hope were hiding so that while Malivore was distracted with them, his conscious, because it's like, right, got to make you aware of it so that, Kansas City shuffle. You're so focused on us, you don't see what's happening over here. So MG and Hope were able to sneak in. But it's also like Hope wasn't meant to go in there alone. So MG's there to kind of keep an eye on her. It's like, yeah, like, I voted for you, so you won. She's like, yeah, but it's still the thing of, like, being able to physically see who voted against you being a part of this. And the fact is that MG has to basically be her babysitter, so she doesn't go rogue and kind of screw up the entire plan going after Landon. Because it's mainly about getting Cleo, but, hopefully Cleo will inspire us how to destroy Malivore, but also save Landon as well. So it's kind of like, I guess we just kind of have to go with that. But ultimately when they do, though, it's still like that part of Hope, not like, it's just like she can't help herself. Like it's just constantly there, just like, oh, I gotta save Landon, gotta save Landon. So when they actually do finally run into Cleo, like Hope was just kind of like, oh, I'm done with like the illusions and the pretending, like none of this is real. And obviously this isn't her first time in Malivore, so it's like, yeah, I've been through this rodeo a couple times, so like, don't get so, like, all the stuff, I get it, it's all appetizing and everything, but at the end of the day, none of it's real, and it will never last. Like, Malivore's illusions, everything just to placate you and try and keep you here is just part of his further manipulations. So, but at the end of the day, Cleo's like, you should have left when you had the chance. Like, I think she was, like, it's hard to say, because I think when Hope showed up in there, she's like, yeah, they're here. Yeah, because she was trying to keep the illusion going. So I don't know whether it's like that was part of her plan of like making Malivore think he had won her over by pretending like she was placated, when in actuality she was just, well, because she even said it herself, like she had actually kind of given up because she didn't think anyone would come for her. But now it's like, you do know that we're coming for you. Like, you want us to be friends, and you're saying that you wish that we could be friends. And Hope is like, I do too. Like, you are part of the super squad and everything. So, but Malivore at the same time was messing with Alaric and Caleb, because they end up in a place, and this is something we haven't dived into too much, is Caleb's circumstances of how him and Alaric met. And it's very Jordan Kent from Superman and Lois, of like, yeah, at that point he was already a vampire and he was an all-star football player. He probably already was beforehand, but having his vampiric abilities probably helped a lot, very much like Jordan playing football and Superman and Lois. But like, they remember the night, it's like he fed on somebody, and then it's like, yeah, Alaric's like, and you almost killed me, and he's like, yeah, but it's in the past, like, we're here together now. So, but ultimately, I was wondering, I figured there had to be something more to it, and the way Malivore was like, hey, like, I've seen both of your memories, and there's just, things aren't lining up. I was like, wait, is Alaric hiding something? I thought it was going to be something like Alaric did something bad, and obviously we saw the issue of, like, his students and stuff like that in the past, and him doing stuff, locking them in a prison dimension and stuff, so I thought it was something of that nature, but it's like, no, he kept this secret from Caleb, because Caleb thought it was just he fed on one person, but it's like, no, he didn't just feed on one person. He killed a lot of people that night. And for Caleb, it's like, wait, no. Because I think Caleb's always thought of himself like, oh, like, Alaric, you worry too much. It's like, nah, I've got control of myself. But now it adds more perspective of why, like, Alaric has always kind of jumped on him a lot quicker about that, like, kind of feeding and stuff. Like, because I think on some level, he's always been afraid that he knows it's inside the kid. Caleb's not a ripper, but the fact is that he's capable of losing control like that. But obviously he's shown control over the course of the series. That's because the trauma of what he did sunk in and just like, it blocked the memory for him. So like, now that he's going the entire time never knowing, like, who knows like how long ago that was. But it's like, wait, I did this? Like, why didn't you tell me? And it's like, you didn't need to know. Like, obviously your powers were like, you were just coming to terms with what you were, and you just kind of lost control. And Caleb was trying to bite Alaric, but luckily Landon was there to step in away, and it's like, the actual Landon. Now he's like, I love this, the hard cut to later on when it's like, wait, so there were 3, how many versions of me? 3. And then Caleb's like, 2. It's like, yeah, it's like, wow. And thinking about everything that's kind of going on the outside, but it's also like, I don't say anything because we're of two minds. He knows what I know. And so essentially, Landon knows that Hope will do whatever it takes to save him. And it's like, it's like, for him, he still feels responsible of, like, all that Malivore is doing. Because it's like, right, I am the perfect vessel. Like, there's only one of 2 ways this can end. 1, either my body dies and Malivore dies with me. 2, Hope dies and becomes a tribred. That's the only way this ever ends. And he's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure one of those paths doesn't come up. He doesn't want Hope to become a tribred, because it takes away any future, like, more awakening her vampire side. Like, she could never, she could never age and grow old, She would live for, obviously, kind of borderline eternity, but also, like, she could never have a family if she ever wanted one. Like, she could never have children of her own. So, like, a lot of that, and it's like, a full life, a non-eternal vampiric life of having to deal with, like, dealing with bloodlust and stuff like that. Like, she would forever have to deal, And you could also make the argument, like, becoming that could easily tiptoe her towards becoming a lot like Klaus. And it took a long time for Klaus to not be Klaus. Granted, there was a lot of trauma associated with why Klaus, because Klaus felt powerless in his own life. And the moment he got power, like, he was already broken because of his father's abuse. And then you add in what he became, that power, like, for someone who felt powerless for so long, like, and a lot of his own insecurities, like, it gave him the power to feel like, no, I'm powerful. No one can stop me. Like, you know, especially being what he is, a hybrid, being the one of his kind at the time, you know? So Hope has a lot of that in her, where it's just like all the rage and sadness from everything that she's lost that could like warp her into becoming like, no, I'll be so powerful, I'll never lose anything or anyone ever again. And she'll become so obsessed with trying to protect what she has that, yes, even her father went about the wildest ways of like keeping his family together. I mean, he literally put his family on ice. Well, daggered them. Anytime they stepped out of line, did something he didn't appreciate, but he didn't kill them, but he just kept them locked away. So it's like, I'm just saying, like, I've said it time and time again, of like, you can see so many parallels between Hope and Klaus in so many regards. Luckily, she has a little bit of her mom to balance that out, but it's like, that's a lot of Klaus, especially because you're going down that territory. Like, granted, at this point, she is a hybrid of her own making, because she is a witch and a werewolf currently, but she could also, like, you know, go a step further, like fully awakening her vampiric side. So who knows what that would do in the long run. That might be unearthing something we don't want to see what that turns into, you know, and what that could be. So we'll have to wait and see where things kind of go from there. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, Landon knows, like, if Hope is going to try to do everything she can to save him, but it's like, if it comes down to it, you got to promise me you can do what, like, Hope won't do. Hope won't let you do, and that's kill me. And then it's like, they had to make that promise to Caleb. I mean, to Landon. On the other side of things, though, well, on the outside, we have, like, well, Josie and Finch are in that stage of the relationship where, like, Josie's still kind of keeping her in the dark about everything. It's like, right, this whole, like, mission we're up to is, like, a super secret. And then, like, you have Lizzie, like, being like, oh, like, have you canceled your date? Oh, I guess not. Yeah, I canceled my date with Ethan. Like, come on, it's not that serious. Like, she just, you know, and even Josie's like, you're so dismissive of, like, all my relationships. And we kind of get into the psychology of that later on. But, like, they're having these, like, they're taking these quizzes and stuff like that. And then ultimately, it's like the whole conversation of like, right, have you ever had like a love that you had and then it ended up, I forgot the exact wording of what it was, but Lizzie was crying and stuff like that, because it's like, wait, that conversation isn't actually in there. And it's like, well, you know, but Finch wasn't, she ended up answering it anyway. But then Finch also brings up the fact it's because Josie hasn't told her anything. She asked her like a question where she was like, oh, so what are your plans for your 25th birthday? And they both look at each other like, yeah, that's, you know, the Gemini situation, because that's still looming over their heads. Especially knowing, like, I mean, it's always played out a certain way, but also it's like, I mean, look at how things played out between Kai and Joe. It's like, that's... Once again, that's a very unique circumstances amongst the Gemini that's possible, but it's still just like, there's been no breaking that to some shape or form. Like, that's always, I mean, because, I mean, at the end of the day, Kai ended up killing her anyway, like, even after all that time, you know, so it's just like, is there any fighting destiny in many different regards? So, but because Finch is like, yeah, you guys didn't really, Josie didn't really tell her much about Gemini, so she was in the library learning. And she's like, you know, like, really, that's interesting. There's some pages missing from the Gemini book. And it's like, oh, really? That's interesting. But basically, they needed a spell to sever everyone that's stuck inside of Malivor's mind, but they need to siphon the magic from a person. And Finch is like, yeah, do it for me. And I'm like, right. I always forget that, like, vampirism and werewolfism are technically magic, because like the transformation and stuff like that, it's just most stuff never really classifies it as that, which in actuality it's like, yeah, it makes sense. But it's like, I mean, especially in this case, because we know vampirism was born, well, and werewolfism, like, we're born from like straight up magic. So like they siphon like the magic of her being a werewolf to enact a spell. But at the same time, you have Hope and MG in their situation where Malfoy grabbed Cleo and then sent them off to be tortured. And in that moment, like, he's taking them back to the night where she saved MG after he killed Landon. And it's like, right, I just need to give him my blood to heal. But it's like, or I can offer you something. She's like, I'm not listening. It's like, come on, Landon, he's right there. It'll be so real. You can finally be together. Granted, it's a limited time offer. You just have to leave MG behind. I mean, come on. We both know you want to cheat. Like, yeah, you care about your friends and everything, but we know you care about Landon a lot more. So I'm giving you an option. You can finally be with him. And it's just like, why are you doing this? Why are you even giving me this offer? And it's like, well, MG kind of talks about that later on. It's because he needs them divided. Specifically, he needs them away from Hope. Dividing them is great and all, but it's like specifically Hope, because Hope ends up being the linchpin. Like, for her namesake, she is the hope of all this. Like, she's at the center of this. Like, regardless of her actions, she is kind of the glue. Like, she is the center to this group. And so if you can separate her, plus separating her on her own gives you an ample opportunity to remove the most dangerous piece on the board, because he still hasn't found a way to how to get rid of her without turning her into the ultimate weapon against him. But Hope is like, right, you know that I will make the same choice over and over again. You're actually predicting it. You're hoping that I will make that choice of going after Landon. And she ends up saving MG, which, MG was like, I understand, Supergirl. And he's like, oh, you must be delusional if you think she's Supergirl. I'm like, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because Supergirl, obviously in its final season, it's obviously on the CW, so it's just like, hey. But nevertheless, she chooses to save MG, and that goes a long way, because you have Caleb and Alaric lying about seeing no signs of Landon, because they're not ready for that. She's not ready for that conversation, because obviously Caleb is like, you were right to kind of hide the truth from me because I wasn't ready for it yet, but now I am. Like, I am not the same person I was back then. I'm not the same person, because even he's saying, like, the fact is that you, like, immediately attacked me back then, but you were able to hold yourself back this time. And he's like, well, for Lark, it's like, I consider that growth. So you're not the same person you were then. You were ready to face that truth now, because you have, like, coming to this school, like, at the end of the day, Caleb's like, yeah, like, I have grown a lot at this school, But ultimately, it comes down to the situation that, they believe Hope isn't ready to hear that conversation. So Caleb is like, whatever play, you want to, I got your back, partner, in all of this. Because for Rick, it's like, yeah, welcome to my place, where you basically all you have is bourbon to kind of ease the weight you have to carry of doing all that you can to protect the people you love, even if it's kind of protecting them from themselves, and kind of like the harsh realities and the hard truths about certain things that they're not ready to hear yet, It comes as that thing of like, right, why'd you keep this information for us? Why'd you do it? It's like everything you do is for the sake of protecting the people you love. It's just not always the easiest route there, because all you can do at the end of the day is try to do what you believe is best. So, and if Hope finds out the truth about what they did, maybe and hopefully it's at a time when she's ready to hear the truth and is able to make a decision that isn't just born out of, like, fear, or actions born out of fear. We'll see. But ultimately, Finch and Josie end up talking, because, like, Finch is like, yeah, it kind of feels like you're kind of keeping me, like, anytime before I can even really learn anything about you, you're kind of pushing me away. And Josie's like, no, it's not just a feeling, like, it is happening. Like, Josie's scared of, like, Finch ever finding out about all her dark secrets, everything that's ever happened, every truth about her. Like, obviously, it's like her fear about, like, the whole dark magic situation going forward. Dark Josie in the past is always still a fear. Plus, what the future holds for her as a Gemini twin. What her and Lizzie's future potentially holds. Telling someone else, like, I guess it's like you're able to kind of ignore it for a while, but also it's like that's kind of a complicated thing when it comes to a relationship and everything. So, which is sad, because, like, your dad was in love with someone who was a Gemini, Joe, obviously, and it's like, yeah, that ended the way it did. So it's like, once again, it's like tragedy's kind of bound to strike. It's just like, is it kind of written in stone? Is it set in stone type of situation? So, but she's willing to open up the fitch because it's like, right, which type of relationship do you want? Do you want where it's just kind of not serious and fun, or, you know, easy and fun, or do you want it to be a serious relationship but hard, but it can grow? Because, like, you know, she'd rather have a relationship that can grow. Like, yeah, it might be hard, but it's worth it because they can grow, hopefully, in the same direction. So at the end, she chooses dad, and she opens up. It's like, right, the pages that were missing about the Geminis is about something called the merge. So she's opening up about probably that and a lot of other stuff. But then Lizzie and Hope talk about, like, why. She's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I always crap on yours and Landon's relationship. She's like, I do the same thing to my sister, so it's not just exclusive to you. And it's like, well, you know, it kind of does it to her sister, since, like, Hope is always kind of has been like a friend / sister. But it's because she's jealous, she's envious of what they have. It's like, you know, you both have a love that you're willing to kind of do anything for, and she's never really had that. Like, yeah, she's been in relationships like the Sebastian thing, but it's not the same thing. Like, this love you'll go above and beyond to protect. She's envious, and, you know, that's always why she poo-poos a lot of those relationships. Why? It's because having something that important to you, like that type of love, you know, Lizzie wants that, but she doesn't think she deserves it or she'll ever have it. And it's like, you know, Hope's like, shouldn't you be having this conversation with MG? And she's like, I've told him kind of open for business and stuff like that, but he hasn't really kind of taken the opportunity. And he's like, well, Ethan asked you out, right? And she's like, yeah, but that's why I canceled. Like, well, uncancel it. Like, you know, it's not the easiest thing, you know, that type of love, but, you know, if you're not willing to put yourself out there, then you'll never know. You'll never open yourself up for those opportunities. So. But ultimately, at the end, our stinger is that before she left, Cleo did leave a little surprise for Hope and Malivore of, like, right, she inspired Hope. Now, what this inspiration turns into, we'll see. But, you know, he's like, oh, I'm going to make you suffer until you give me what I want. Which Cleo's like, go right ahead, do your worst, because at the end of the day, all I have to do is wait until all I have to do is hold out long enough for my friends to save me. So it's like, now she's filled with hope. Like, before, you might have been able to eventually get to her because she didn't know anyone's coming, but now it's too late. They've already, like, because even that was the point that me and G was getting across too, of like, you gave a little bit of hope goes a long way. He's like, yeah, I had to go there, but it's like, it is, because now Cleo knows we're coming for her, like, and that means the world. So what this new inspiration, where it will lead, we'll ultimately have to wait and see where everything takes us going forward into the next episode. I'm excited to see what this season has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.